Picture a child. A real child you know and care about. Picture the world that child is growing into. A world where information is instant, where the machines can generate answers, images, even ideas, where the pace of change is faster than any generation before. We are at a critical juncture. The future belongs to the qualities the machines can't replace. Judgment, creativity, empathy, resilience, love, and purpose.
The pressure has been put upon this time to get the right answer as quickly as possible with as few mistakes. Being a human is to struggle. It is to learn from that struggle and to become a better person because of it.
The piece that I've seen, especially as someone who spent so much time at universities and is currently still teaching undergraduates and master's students and working with doctoral candidates, the ones that are really successful are the ones who are creative in ways that bring together different ideas, that they don't feel uncomfortable when there's no structure around them, when they have to be the one who's leading the charge. They have to pull threads from different parts of their lives together. They have to know how to ask their own questions. Those skills are the things that are actually what makes people successful from what I've experienced.
I don't want to teach the students to live in the world that exists right now, because that world is not going to be the same world in 10, 20, 30 years.
I really see Waldorf education as being the way that humans are going to develop and move into the new capacities they need for the future. I want it not only for my children, I want it for all children. I want this generation to be better than previous ones. And I want them to be truly free in their thinking and to be able to create new ideas and move forward through a future that's really unknown.
Hello, and welcome to the Human Advantage Summit. I'm Meg Gardner, School Director at Shining Mountain Waldorf School, and I am delighted to be your host this evening. We have come here to answer a profound question. How do we become our most fully human selves, consciously and courageously, in this ever-changing world? Let me set the stage for you. The World Economic Forum has predicted that by the year 2030, 92 million jobs will be displaced, and 172 million new jobs will emerge. This means that the children of today are looking for jobs that do not yet exist. They also predict that young people will grow up to have an average of 17 jobs in their life over the span of 5 industries. We can no longer have identities that are based on our skills. We need identities that are fully human ones, that span all of this. Our young people will not be hired for the skills that they can do alone, but because of who they are. They will have to be able to pivot. They will have to be able to release old identities and come up with new ones with strength and joy. Waldorf education at its root is about human development, physical, intellectual, and also emotional soul development. So imagine a young child that you know. They are one with their world. I have a vivid memory of my son Solomon when he was 5 years old, splashing in this puddle and the mud going everywhere. And to say that he splashed in the puddle is to miss the point. He was the puddle. He was the mud. He was the laughter. He was the splash. And Waldorf early childhood education honors this wholeness. Literacy is comprehension first. And when the stories are told, the children sing the stories. They stomp the stories. They become the stories. Now things shift. And by 9 years old, there's this separation, and children are becoming their own selves, other than the world. And I remember a story one of my students told me that she remembers at 9 years old, being in the back seat of her car, and her family was driving through a big city at night, and there were lights in the windows of all the skyscrapers. And she suddenly realized that a person had turned on each one of those lights. Each light represented a person who she would never know and who would never know her. And she had such a poignant feeling that she couldn't articulate, and tears began streaming down her face in the back seat of this car. Now, in Waldorf education, at this moment is when we teach fractions. And I'm sure you can understand fractions intellectually at a lot of different ages. But after this 9-year change, they deeply understand what it means to be part of a whole. The outer curriculum reflects the inner questions. By 13, you can no longer have the answer because I told you so, or that's just the way it is. It doesn't fly anymore. 13-year-olds are so burning with questions about justice and equality and human rights. So we teach revolutions. The American Revolution, Civil Rights Movement, the apartheid. And I'll tell you, all you have to do is stir up some injustice in the class and perhaps tax them to sit in the chairs that they used to be able to sit in for free, and all of a sudden they will rise up with a fiery passion. They will write you the best essays and poems. They will speak eloquently about their passions because their moral compass is waking up. All along the way, Waldorf education mirrors this human development so that the questions a student might not even be able to articulate within themselves is being answered in the curriculum. Imagine what that does to a human being. They grow up trusting the world. They grow up trusting themselves. And they grow up creating an identity that is so far beyond test scores or how many AP classes they've taken or the title at their job. But they create an identity about how they show up with curiosity, with creativity, with courage. And that is radical. And I use that word on purpose. Radical comes from a Latin word that means root. In mathematics, the radical is the root. In botany, the radical stems from the root of the plant. And at the root of Waldorf education, and I argue all of humanity, are these questions of how can we be most human? But radical also means to be bold, to be innovative, and to push boundaries towards the change that we need to have happen. So I argue that in this day and age, where our political and cultural spheres are very fractioned, that teaching empathy and compassion is a radical act. In our world where there's so much anxiety and stress and fear, teaching from a place of trust and hope and gratitude is a radical act. And in a world that is filled with artificial intelligence, leaning in on our human intelligence And teaching someone how to think for themselves and how to learn is a radical act. Thank you. So how do we create these radical spaces in our lives? I do it in Waldorf education, but there are so many paths for you out there. How do you show up as a parent, as a student, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as an artist, and create these radical spaces so that we're not creating our identity based on skills, but based on these real human advantages of compassion and empathy, of vulnerability and courage, of imagination and creativity, of adaptability and resilience. Tonight, we have the opportunity to listen to 3 incredible thought leaders in our world: Rob Magliero, Dr. Manya Whitaker, and Pascal Finette. And they will talk about how we create, very consciously, these spaces for our human capacities. Between their talks, we will get to hear from the beautiful and creative Tiero Band with Bridget Law. And at the end, I will lead a question and answer session, bringing these ideas into a collaborative conversation. Because the conversation, I hope, just starts here and continues out into our world. Because it's going to be in every classroom conversation, every board meeting, every business model, every conversation at a dinner table where we are consciously creating the world our children are going to grow up into. So I ask that we create that today, consciously, courageously, and radically. Welcome to the Human Advantage Summit.